boys and girls. So we just got done with Freddie Kraft, and now this is a perfect segue into our next guest. He is a two-time Atlantic City Gamblers Classic winner now. He changes tires really goodly like in the NASCAR Cup Series for Team Penske, does all sorts of cool stuff. And without any further ado, on the other side of the Zoom call, we've got Ryan Flores. What's up, man?
Thanks for having me. I heard nothing but good things about your guys' show.
Hmm.
It's cool what you guys are doing.
I feel like that's a lie. Is it?
No, like I just because I didn't know your face, like I knew who you guys were, but you're like, can you come on the podcast? I'm like, remind me what podcast is again, because I was gonna be like Black Flag, and you're like, no, no, we're this one. I didn't want to be that guy, so I always kind of tread a little lightly. But no, I've seen you guys down in Pensacola, and I don't get to listen to too many podcasts anymore because just too much going on. But yeah, it's good for the sport, grows the sport. Everybody that's doing it for sure.
Well, we appreciate that, and it's blown up way bigger than we ever thought it would. But that being said, obviously we know who you are. We're familiar with your background a little bit, but for those that might not know, who the hell is Ryan Flores?
Yes, I grew up Wall Stadium. My dad raced street stocks and kind of started I raced quarter midgets from the time I was 5. Like I raced with, Timmy Buckwalter and the Salmons, all those guys growing up, and started going to the like modified races with the Bluets when I was like 14. Moved in the Bluets junkyard there with John and Jimmy, and just worked for them. And when it came time to like I raced some legend car stuff and all that at Wall, but really didn't have any money. And right when I graduated high school, it was kind of apparent that I needed to leave New Jersey, and I left and came down here and I got a job at Roush. Like 3 months after I moved here as a fabricator in the cup shop. It was pretty surreal. I'd done a lot of fabricating in New Jersey for Wall Stadium stuff. My cousin was crew chief in Rowan Pennick at the time on the tour, and we were just kind of doing a lot of racing there. We'd come down here on Wednesday nights and race a summer shootout with our friends the Molesworths, and I wasn't doing a lot of driving, but I was working on a lot of stuff, and got an opportunity to work at Roush, and as a fabricator, I went in there and at 19 started there and was on the road with the Crown Royal 26 car. We had to lie about my age because I wasn't old enough to wear the Crown Royal stuff. But yeah, kind of was there for 4 years, and it was like my college education. And also taught myself to change tires there, kind of in the parking lot after work. And yeah, I've been doing that ever since. Now I was at Stuart Haas for a couple years, won a championship with Tony Stewart in 2011, and then been at Penske for 9 years now. It's been my ninth season, so 16th year on the road. Feeling pretty old, and we get to go do some indoor racing and try to race at Wall when I can too.
So, growing up in New Jersey and obviously, hanging out at Wall Stadium and doing the local short track deal, when you went down south with, Pocket Full of Dreams or whatever, did you ever have any aspirations of, trying to drive anything, or were you just like, I want to work on race cars?
At the time, I was spotting. Actually, I was actually like, "Who the hell's Freddie Kraft?" I was spotting for Jimmy Blewett at the time and John, and that's kind of what I came here to do. But like we, it was like we never, I was never like a fabricator or a spotter or a tire guy. Like we just did everything because it had to be done. Like, hey, go build that nose so you learned how to fabricate. Hey, mount these tires because someone's got to do it. The first time I spotted, John Blue the third was like, hey, nobody else is here. Nobody wants to walk to the grandstands. You go spot. And I was like, okay. And then he ended up winning, and I didn't do anything right. So that's how good he was. But yeah, kind of trial by fire and Blewett's junkyard there, man. Richie Evans Jr. was there. Like everybody was working in the junkyard at the time, and Jimmy, I get on Jimmy's ass because he still treats me like a little Ryan from the junkyard. I tell him like, hey man, I'm not 14 anymore, but yeah, I don't know. I never really had like the way it works down here is you get the money first, then you get the ride, And I was never good enough or raced enough to like think I was gonna go cup racing. Uh, So I'm pretty realistic about that, but I like to go do it with my friends now. And there's so many great race car drivers and great races around the country. Getting a drive on the Cup or the Xfinity level doesn't automatic, that doesn't really mean you're successful. There's so many good guys. I did that dirt deal with Strickler and met a lot of guys racing those modifieds from all over the country. And you go race the midgets and see what some of those guys can do. So I don't think NASCAR really equates success anymore with how many avenues there are to race.
I think that's an interesting take, especially since you've gotten to kind of see, the full aspect of it. But I feel like you're not giving yourself enough credit either, though, because obviously you are pretty talented behind the wheel. My first time down in Atlantic City was the first time you rattled off a win down there. And, how do you end up in a TQ midget to begin with? And, how does that equate to your success in the indoor ranks? Because obviously you don't suck at it.
Yeah, like being in New Jersey, like 2003, I think was the first one. And I was racing Bandoleros out of the hut there, the Blue Witch shop, and we kind of went down there, and they had a Bandolero and Legend car race along with the TQs, the first one they ever had, and I finished second in that, and just watching like Lou Saccone rip on the outside, and we became really good friends with Joey Payne. He was always around good. He was good friends with John. We used to call him the TQ mullet back when he had a mullet. And those guys would race wall all the time on the big track, and started following that, and was really just became a big fan of it. I remember getting made fun of down here when I was telling everybody about Liquid Lou. They were like, "The hell kind of nickname is that?" But yeah, kind of fell in love with it there. And then Joey Payne actually got me a ride. I'd swept Turkey Derby in the Legend cars, and I beat like it was like Daniel Hemrick was there. I mean, there was 50 cars. I think Ryan Truex actually got sent. He didn't make the race. It was like really Max Ackham, pretty stacked field. Um, but yeah, Hemrick finished second, so that was cool that year. Uh, and Joey Payne was driving for Mark Laffler at the time, Timex Morgan, and they got me a ride in the indoor car. And I missed the show by one spot. I was still in like there was 100 cars there, and Mark Laffler ended up building cars the next year, and Jimmy blew it. Myself bought one, and I didn't get to race the first year we had it because I broke my wrist in an Evans car at Turkey Derby. But the next year, we finished second at Trenton. Me and Teddy got to duke it out, and we've been on a pretty good roll ever since 2014 with that thing.
I feel like we might have just heard a brief introduction to that story about you breaking your wrist. Is it true that you were maybe kind of pussyfooting it around, and then somebody chimed on the radio to you?
No, I was tighter than hell in that thing, and it just was a kind of a. It's a good story, but we were tight and we weren't really good, and I was like kind of taking it easy, and Jimmy got on the radio and was like, "Let's go, let's fucking go here." And then the next restart, I was on the bottom, and it was just one of those deals where like Wall Stadium's pretty sketchy on restarts, and you come out of one because like it changes levels when it goes from like the banking in the corner to the straightaway. There's like a dip there, and I've wrecked there more. Like that's the hardest I've wrecked there is every time I've wrecked on a restart off of four there, and a Legend car and that modified. Well, it just kind of hooked the right front as I was like reaching back from the shifter to the wheel, and my hand got stuck, and it just blew my wrist apart. And I had just signed with Penske. Like I had just quit Stuart Haas and signed with Penske. The paperwork wasn't even finished yet, so it was pretty sketchy. But I got through it. But yeah, the way that that story goes, Jimmy did yell at me under caution on the next restart. And my wrist was broke.
I
How
got to stand in the corral Saturday night. I work on Matt Janish's car when we go indoor racing. Got to know Jimmy a little bit at the Turkey Derby. He was nice enough to let us come to Mulligan's with him after the race and party with, and figured for sure he wouldn't remember who I was, but he did. So he's standing next to me, and yeah, I don't even think you were in the car yet. And he's got his head down on the little guardrails there, and he's like, "Bobby, I'm gonna fucking puke, man." And I'm like, well, I got brand new shoes on, so don't puke on me. But he was a ball of nerves the entire race, bouncing around, up, down. It was pretty funny to watch. He was pretty nerved up, and he thinks a lot of you, and he was real happy to see you win. Obviously, just talk about how you got. Obviously you said you just started going to the junkyard, but just touch on your friendship with Jimmy because like I said, he thinks a lot of you. And
Yeah, without getting like too deep. So my parents were getting separated in 2000 and I don't know, 2, 3, and it was like a tough time to be home. So I just needed to get like the hell away. And uh I just went there. And I would like sleep on his couch. My mom would come pick me up in the morning. His mom, Linda Blewett, was like she like took care of us, right? It was like the land of misfit dogs and misfit kids. Like they had all these dogs there that would like come in the junkyard that people weren't taking care of. So John would just steal people's dogs. They weren't taking care of them and bring them to his mom's house. And uh, they brought me in and really put me to work. And it was I feel like at that point in my life, all I wanted to do was race, modifieds at Wall Stadium and working the crushed cans in the light iron pile at Bluett's Junkyard. That would have been a fine life for me. But yeah, we grew up and went through a lot of obviously John passing away. Went through all that together and been there now. We both have kids and it's hard with our schedules. He races a lot, whether it's dirt or asphalt, and I'm on the road 38 weeks a year. I got two kids, and it's tough to get back to New Jersey. But it's kind of the time of the year that we carve out to hang out with each other. And those freaking TQ midgets, man. Corey LaJoy says it the best. Just because they're 3/4 a midget doesn't mean they're 3/4 of work. They're twice the amount of work of anything else when you go to the racetrack. So, uh, yeah, it's good to go race with your friends, man, because it tests your friendship every time. And I know we had that this weekend. I was kind of fighting him on a change, and he talked me into it, and we went half back on it before the feature, and that's why he was puking in the infield. And I swear that he's gonna have a heart attack in that corral one day.
Well, you guys are obviously good friends. How cool is it to go back to Wall Stadium and both pick up wins on Turkey Derby weekend? Because that was cool. I didn't even know you were racing that weekend necessarily until I knew the two TQs related that weekend. But what was it, Friday you showed up and got the factory stock win?
Yeah, it was such a blast. So, the king of the street stocks at Wall Stadium is Rich Monjo. He's won like 1,000 races there, and his son Shannon's a really good friend of ours. And uh, I grew up a street stock kid, like in the grandstands playing on the open trailers right there where now it's all my, the kids I grew up in the grandstands with whose dad raced. It's all them and their dad's working on the cars. And I just love those things, man. They don't go, stop, or turn. You got to do all three for them, right? And the guys I drove for this year, the Montanos, it was so funny, man. They're from Long Island, and hell, they stopped in Brooklyn on the way there to get cannolis. So I knew I was on a good team. But there's just like the cup racing deal is really cool, and I'm really fortunate to do it. We have a lot of resources, and there's a lot of people, but just loading that thing up on an open trailer with your old man and going and just giving her hell. There's not much better than that to get, remember why you do it, because on the road that long and you start getting mad about stupid shit that you shouldn't get mad about. And when you just go back and just race organically, like that's like the most organic form of racing. You're just literally in a 1980 Cutlass beating the doors off it with, another guy next to you, and they all go the same speed. So to try to figure out how to pass or get runs or not mess up because they're one wheel drive, the rears aren't even locked. So like when you start spinning the left rear, like they're a handful to they're not like a handful to get around the track, but to get around the track faster than the other guys. And then that race was 100 laps, dude. Do you know how long a 100 lap street stock race is with drum brakes and one wheel drive? It was a long time, but yeah, that was the first one I won, and I've been in position quite a bit. But that's what I said to those guys. I'm like, man, this Atlantic City and Allentown's cool, but that freaking win at Turkey Derby was big for me.
It's pretty cool to hear that. That's kind of the whole point of all of this is bringing out, well, why do we go to the racetrack? And it's pretty cool to hear that from you and hear your respect for the sport in general. But moving to the what you do on Sundays, has that at any point in time soured your taste for the sport? Does it ever become just a job, or do you still love racing in its purest form all the way around?
I think sometimes it had maybe when I was like working in the shop full time, I did that for a long time, and maybe it did then, but like right now I just changed tires, and I'm pretty excited about where the sport's heading. It might have been stale there for 10, 12 years, and it's pretty cool what they got going on and all the things NASCAR's trying to do, and Ben Kennedy kind of taking over more of the reins. And you look at stuff like the Nashville Fairgrounds and Wilkesboro and this car. I know people say a lot of stuff about this car, but it could be really, really a big deal for our sport. And the pit stops are super hard to do. And my pit crew is like a bunch of dudes. It's almost like being on a football team or something. Get to hang out with them every day. So it's I I think I'm more excited this year than I've ever been. So that's a good feeling to go into the season like pumped up. And Austin's a rookie, and we've won Xfinity championships and races with him before. My pit crew, like we changed for him last year, which was a little bit bittersweet because Daniel passed us on the last lap to win. But Daniel is a good friend, and we've raced a lot with him too. But yeah, as good as Austin's done in the Xfinity Series, the Cup Series is a big jump. But if you're ever going to be a rookie, this is the year to do it. So it'll be fun.
So talking about pit stops, and obviously that is your job. That's what you get paid to do. With this new car and the whole one lug nut debacle and everybody freaking out about that. How much has your job changed, and what have you had to adapt to, and things that have changed in your life because of that?
It's been good for my indoor racing career because you like got pretty good at 5 nuts and got comfortable, and right, probably put on 10 pounds too much and wasn't working out as hard. And I went when they first kind of announced this deal, I went over to Paoli and hit the one lug nut gun and was like, "Ooh, it's pretty physical." Um, so you can't really rely on talent as much as you could with 5 nuts. So you just got to grip it and rip at this thing just because there's less lug nuts, man. These picker guys sometimes don't get enough credit. Like they do it, they make a lot of money and do it for a living. And to compete on Sunday, just because there's maybe 4 less lug nuts each side, you're going twice as fast. And the hard part for the pit stop stuff, really, the physical side is one thing, right? I've got a nutritionist, started working out at a different, like at a gym here in town with a new trainer, and lost weight, put on muscle, which is good for the indoor racing, right? I'm 10 pounds lighter than I was. So hell, if I could figure out a way to get 10 pounds off a race car ever, I'd be pretty excited. Drilling holes in freaking carbon fiber to try to save weight, and you got 10 pounds in your belly that you can get rid of, is probably the easiest way. But then, like the one lug nut deal, man, the wheels are gonna fall off cars. It's gonna happen. But like you're not gonna have a loose wheel like you used to. Like if the wheel's not tight and they go back on the track, it's undrivable. So you're not gonna have like a 10 lap into a run like, hey, did you get this thing tight? It's pretty black and white if it's tight or not. And yeah, the mistakes are like astronomically high when they're like could ruin your day. Uh, and as a competitor, especially in the highest form of the sport, that's all you can ask for is like an opportunity to be better or worse than the guys that are coming around you. And it's not going to be like a IMSA style stop where you just have a time that you have to beat, and no one, you 30 seconds or whatever. It's going to be people putting down nines and people putting down 18s and everywhere in between. So yeah, it's I'm pretty pumped about it.
So with the gun itself, like that's something I hadn't even really thought of at all. But like, what makes that more physical compared to what you were doing?
Yeah, so the gun's bigger. Um, you obviously have to kind of seat it on the nut, but the wheel, like the offset of the wheel, so the 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 hub kind of mounts like right to the outside of the wheel, so the offset's so much deeper, and the wheel's 2 inches wider than it was before. So you got to pull the tire like so much further out and get it back to the wall, and you have to do it all faster than you were doing it before. And you got to get up and spring out of the hole faster and chase your jack band like he goes by you. You get to the left front, get that thing engaged, rip it out, and get the left front as fast as you can because he's ripping the jack, and you better have it on there. So it it's just where before you could with 5 nuts you can kind of be smooth. This you can be smooth, and if you try to go fast, you really jack it up. But like if you try to be too smooth, then you're just slow. Like it's a really fine line. It's hard to explain, but it's as hard as it's ever been.
Interesting.
Did Freddie mention to you guys anything else about the night that I broke my wrist? I
Not
think we breezed over this.
not
So
specific.
did it have to do with Fireball? Did you leave it out?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
It was
yeah,
the same. It was the same night. That was the same night because my hand was swelled up, and Jimmy was making fun of me like I looked like the guy from Happy Gilmore. Was it Chubbs who had the fake hand? And Freddie was drinking, and I was driving, and I just forgot about that, and I didn't want to breeze over it. But yeah, Freddie, we were about to pull in the junkyard, and he was sitting in the middle row. He was sitting in the middle of Katie Blewett's Jeep, and he puked straight Fireball, like it was poured out of the bottle, and it went. There was like 2 vents in the back, like center console and the vents, and it went all straight in the vents. I mean, like the grossest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And we had some guy with us, and we were probably like a half mile from Blewett's, and I stopped, and the guy just was like, "I'm out of here," and just walked back. It was like 20 degrees. I had a t-shirt on. He's like, "I'm not dealing with this. I'm out of here."
I
But
think Freddie wanted you to go into detail about that story because all he said to us was to mention his name and Fireball, and that is
yeah,
what he was
that
bringing.
was all the same night because I was like, "Oh, my career's over. I'll just move back here and work in the junkyard." And yeah, he so now every time he does, they do good or we win, I always comment with a fireball. And yeah, for Freddie, there's like certain times on the road where I know it's gonna be good where to see him. Indianapolis is one. It's cool to have a guy that kind of you're down here and you're with a lot of good racers, but not a lot that kind of understand where we come from and all the players in the game like Freddie does. So it's cool to have him down here and somebody to bounce ideas off of.
Well, we bounced different ideas for sure, but it was cool last year. We didn't know many people in the industry, but we frequented the same establishments over and over again. And luckily, Freddie was there to bounce ideas off of.
Oh yeah, he's pretty consistent in where he goes for sure. Creature of habit, but yeah, they got a good deal, man. That's a hell of a deal to be working for Michael Jordan. That's a cool spot to be in the sport.
Well, I mean, it doesn't suck to work for Roger Penske either, technically, but
No, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's different. It's definitely different, but and there, you learn a lot about business and kind of um, big business politics. But at the end of the day, they're just pretty cool racers. And I've been going in the mornings. We start practice at say like we start warming up at 7:30, and I'll go in at like 6:30, warm my back up, and then go out and IndyCar practice right there. So I'll kind of watch those guys, and it's just cool. Like when you watch the Indy 500, the dudes that are winning it, right? Like that's something maybe I'll try to do one day. I asked Roger in Phoenix. Cindric couldn't believe I did it, but Roger come walking on the track and says, "Hey Roger, since we're going to one lug nut, how about us doing the double next year?" "Oh, that's not a bad idea. We might have to do that." But Austin was like, "Did you really just ask him that, you idiot?" But yeah, I'd like to do like Indy 500 or something one day. I'm getting older, but it's that dude. I'll tell you what, those guys go to Indy for like 3 weeks in May. It's a long time.
So one of the things you do, I listened to the show Corey LaJoy's Stacking Pennies. Your segment Pit Road Boats and Woes is always pretty funny. Just talk about that a little bit and talk about how you became friends with Corey. I kind of like Corey in the fact that he's a fabricator, builds his own shit, works his own shit. He's a grinder, and obviously you're the same way. So I've been a fan of both you guys respectively. So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, hell, Corey built a lot of stuff on the TQ, built the gas tank, built a lot of the steering column. He does a lot. When I first moved here, I became friends with Brandon McReynolds and met Corey through them. And Corey was kind of asking anybody he could to come over and work on his late model at the seat shop because he didn't have any help, and Randy wouldn't pay for anybody to come work on it. So he's like, I saw him out somewhere. He's like, "Hey, why don't you come over and work on the late model?" So I went over there, and it was right at the time Randy bought Corey like a brand new Levitt. It was the first time Corey had a brand new car ever. Like Randy made him race junk forever. So I went over there and helped him and our buddy Stevo, he's a car chief at Young's now. Stevo is, but we helped Corey build this car, and they went to Rockingham. I was working at Roush at the time, so I'd like get off work and just go straight over there. We'd work out and then work on the cars all night. They brought this brand new car to Rockingham. It was badass. It was like the nicest late model that ever got built, and it had brand new Winners hubs, but they were like oil fill hubs instead of grease hubs. And like the 13th, 14th lap on the track, that left rear hub broke, and he hit the fence. And I mean, nothing. Like the left front down tube went through the motor. There was nothing left. And I remember them. They had to borrow a rollback to bring that thing back. And he's like, "My career's over." And he found a car and put it together, and actually went and won that Rockingham race. And we built all those East cars together. I just had a small part in it, but I was always there helping him build stuff. And we became really good friends. And then our wives, we got married, and you really only hang out with who your wife likes, man, once you get married. And thankfully our wives are best friends, and we've had, we got two boys that are like 3 weeks apart. And life has kind of worked together that way. But yeah, we've been friends for 15 years now. And they let me build everything at the seat shop. That's where I built my race car. And Randy's like you know another grandfather to our kids. We go over there quite a bit in the summer, and it's really fun.
We obviously got to go back and talk about Atlantic City, but you went and won Allentown this year as well. And I feel like you and Bubba Pollard might be the only two racers in the country that are 2 for 2 this year. At least, I mean, obviously not many people have raced twice, but that's pretty high class for you to be in. But talk about Allentown, and then obviously we're rolling to Atlantic City, where it's never a bad night when you roll into the bar with a trophy.
Yeah, yeah. So I said that today. We filmed Stack Pains before this, and I said Kyle Larson kill for these numbers right now, but yeah, Allentown was tough because the racetrack was so much different, and it's kind of a two-horse race with Andy and I, Andy was kind of messing around, like trying to be, he was trying to be like real calculated and kind of stay in third. And I got the fourth, and I just shipped it in there on the top, and it stuck. And I drove by all of them on the top, and then crossed Catalano over, and I was leading. And it was like a dirt track where you'd almost drive in on the top of 3 and 4, and then 1 and 2 you just kind of slide to the grip. And I knew that kind of turned into a dogfight because I wasn't gonna let him pass me on the top, but there was nothing on the bottom of restart. So it was just trying not to spin your tires, but also, smashing him up. And really, that's kind of how street stock racing is. You try to take each other's angles away and move up and get a better run. And that was really cool because that was like, it's pretty straightforward usually indoor racing, like hook the bottom, work on your center turn. And that racetrack was so much different than anything we had seen. I'd kind of went out to the Rumble. I had gone out to the Rumble and ran a midget with Lusaconi, and it was like a big learning curve, and that's what's helped me these last two. So I was like, okay, it's not just a car. I can drive this thing because that was a driver's track, so I was pretty excited about that. And then this past weekend, dude, we were like a tenth and a half faster than everybody in practice. I'm like, they're screwed. Friday we were fast. Started getting free in qualifying. We fixed it. Went P2 in qualifying, and then I started third in my qualifier and drove that bitch right to seventh. And that's everybody was kind of like, uh-oh, what are we gonna do? And I just had a rough Friday night. But we ended up I put myself in some positions where I could have wrecked, and I felt like I was pretty proud of myself for being mature enough to not make a bad night worse. Um, and we put ourselves in decent position on Saturday, starting on the pole in the heat race, and Bonsignor was parked like starting next to me, and I just looked at him. I said, "Hey man, we could do this the easy way, or we could do this the hard way. What do you want to do? You make the choice." And I said, "I got a champion's provisional for this bitch, though. You don't." Uh, but um, but yeah, heat race was good, and there was actually a practice. Like they gave us like a last minute practice after go kart B mains, and a lot of people had actually gone home, and everybody still thought there was going to be a top. And I just stayed there. Me and Jimmy and all of us just stayed there and worked on that car and tried to get it bite on the bottom, and we got it to where we were freaking hauling ass on the bottom. Like we got something now. And in the feature, we went back half on that change, and it didn't quite work out, especially when Cecily like oiled the track up. I throttled the inside tires trying to work on Rudolph one time, towed the car out and made us tight. But I'll take, you got to put yourself in position to get lucky. But we got lucky. But there's 50 other cars there that weren't running third when them two wrecked each other. So put myself in position there, and then once I got the lead, I pretty much knew they'd have to spin me out to get by me. But that thing was freaking wicked loose in. I was like backing it in the corner a couple of times, just trying not to spin out.
I was disappointed to see your race car is absolutely beautiful. It's the nicest one there. We won best of show somehow, and even Matt's like, Ryan deserves to be pissed because
Did he tell you that I gave that guy a bunch of shit?
he did. He came back to the trailer. Flores was mad, but so I was disappointed to see that the yellow paint ruined the Nerf bar. But what was your reaction when Rudolph and Jankowiak cleaned each other out? Because all the rest of us in the corral were like, "Holy fucking shit! Did that just happen?"
Yeah, I wasn't surprised one bit. I was like, I knew, like, I like Andy, but those guys, like, I can kind of tell when they get pissed off, and I could tell Andy didn't have quite the car that he was used to having. He kind of got in a slug match with Sean Nye, and then Cecily about had him passed on the top, and he was kind of blowing him like through the corner. He was like real late to kind of drive into him, and I was like, okay, Andy's a little flustered here. And I know um, him and Eric don't get along. There's some weird shit that goes back to like a hangover enduro race at Ransomville. I don't know. It was like some deep blooded stuff there. I don't know, but I figured everybody from Buffalo was family, but I guess they're not. But but yeah, when them like I kind of know how Eric races. He'll do that deal where he slides you up the racetrack and gets underneath you, and then you kind of get back underneath him, and he'll kind of chase you down to the tire. And Andy does the deal like where when you get to him and you're a little bit better and you try to move him, he kind of drives down the middle of the racetrack. So when I saw him start doing it, I was like licking my lips. I was like, oh, here we go. And yeah, when they wrecked each other, I was like, huh, okay, cool. Now this. So I was pretty excited about that. I had actually shifted for the first time ever because the track was so bad. I shifted the high gear to try it, and when I had to downshift, I lost a lot of time to those guys, and I was pretty far back when they actually wrecked each other. So I was happy they did.
How much does the track actually change in a weekend like that? Because I guess that's something that I have no idea about. I've never raced indoors. I know Bobby has a very limited experience in that as well. But there's part of the fact that you said Allentown's racetrack was so weird and different, I guess. Is that part of what played into you? I feel like you kept coming out and checking the racetrack, checking the surface all night, and obviously it paid off.
Yeah, something I like to do is look at it, see what kind of way it's going. But they did something different this year where we kind of run the top and they spray like they'll spray Coke syrup to start, and then they'll spray like resin on top of it, like when the rubber starts building, and then they'll spray glue on it when they really want to bite up. And they were kind of building the top, building the top, building the top, and they kept moving the tires. Like they just moved the tires in for like the slingshots and the go karts, and there was really no bottom. They would even slide the tires in further for the feature to make it to where the inside lane wasn't very good. And in Allentown, the like what would be 1 and 2 is close to the opening, so the cold air kind of blows across that end, and the other side's pretty well heated. So one side really never has rubber, and the other side's usually pretty good. But right before the race in Allentown, there was a slingshot that blew up, and I walked around the track and saw this oil, and then we kind of pulled out there, and there was like all this speedy dry everywhere, and they were like, "All right, going green." So I just like pulled my belts tight, like, "Oh shit, we better go here." And yeah, it's something the Salmons are trying to do to get you 2 grooves of racing, so it's not always like when you're on the top, you're like a sitting duck. We started on the top first night in Allentown and then ended up sixth, like 2 laps in. So it's something they're working on, and kudos to them for trying it.
So with AC in the books and obviously a pretty successful 2022 so far, what do we have to look forward to for Ryan Flores and the near future here?
Yeah, so I go to Florida. Not going to LA because there's no pit stops or anything. So we'll go to Florida and hang out and do Daytona and all that. And then looking at doing maybe probably 4 races at Stafford this year with one of Tick Mike's SK cars. So go do some of that. And I look forward to when I'm done changing tires, trying to do the full tour schedule. So I'm trying to get my feet wet with some SK stuff and some tour mod stuff. But it's hard to Friday night works out, but it's hard to race on Saturday and be good on Sunday. The level of competition's too high on pit road, and that's how I feed my family and everything. But yeah, I'd like to do a couple of those SK races. It looks that they do such a great job promoting that place, and little Michael and Narducci and Cop Chick, all those guys, man, they look like they race pretty hard. So I want to get in on that. And with sponsors like like Tick Mike and those guys, it'd be cool to go up there and old JJ Vici, get her dialed in. Go smash some
A
Nerf
lot of
bars with
time with
those
JJ
guys.
this weekend.
Oh, yeah, Gary. That's him, Gary.
Every time he
Waddell.
walks by, it didn't Gary, and I'm like, he's probably sick of you because I know I fucking am.
Oh, Gary. No, it's funny. That's just some guy Waddell worked with. So he calls everybody that's a dumb a Gary. So I just, Gary. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So what else has Freddie had to say? I'm interested here.
So I had asked him to wrap up the second or the first part of this show. I said, what is something I got to ask Ryan, and he had mentioned the Fireball story, but he also asked, he said, ask him what did you tell Timmy Salamito on how to time trial a legend car around Wall?
I can't give up all the secrets, but I'll let you guys have this one. I don't want just, we don't know. I don't know how many people listen to this, but I don't want to get beat. But Timmy was, and this is actually not like, I can't take credit for this. There's a guy, Ronnie Crooks, who's the most badass shot guy that's ever lived. Down here, long gray haired guy. He looks like a wizard. He was a shot guy at Gibbs and at Stuart Halls, won a lot of championships. Now he's in charge of Fox Shocks. He builds all Bloomquist stuff and everything. He's a badass. But he told me this once, and I passed it on to Salamito, and it really worked well for him. Timmy said, "Hey, what are the secrets to qualifying here?" And I said, "You can't tell nobody, but when you go out and you cross the start finish line, get back around to it as fast as you can, and you should be just fine." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, when you cross the start finish line, just go as fast as you can back to it, and you should be just fine." And it worked. He got the pole, so I don't know. It works out.
I will remember that next time I have to time trial my Super
Look,
Star
man.
Classic because I'm terrible at time trialing.
Don't make this shit any harder than it is. Everybody wants to. That's it.
There's going to be a lot more competition in time trials when our upwards of 10 listeners hear that speed secret.
Yeah. Yeah. So good for them for listening to this one. There's some deep knowledge here.
it's
But
definitely
yeah, I mean, Ronnie Crooks told told Ryan Newman. Ryan Newman at one time at a test was telling him that the car wasn't in the racetrack, and he said, "Well, Ryan, it's not a slot car; it's a race car, and it rides on top of the racetrack." It's just stuff like that. And actually, Ronnie Crook's most famous quote came. Remember the Harvick? He doesn't wear the fire suit in the family.
Yeah.
That was him. He told Joey that, and Joey used that on TV. So yeah, that guy's got a deeper. He's got a deeper touch in the sport that he's one of the unsung heroes that like no one ever hears about, but he's got a lot of pull of what goes on down here.
So one thing I do, and I'm pretty curious about, like, so obviously I would consider you a professional athlete. I mean, what you do is, you got to be at the top of your game to do what you do, but it's not you're not sitting at a desk all day. So what does Monday through Friday look for you? Like, what is a work day for you?
Yeah. So as far as the race team goes, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is like our days in the shop. We go right now. We're 7:30. We start at 7:30 to like usually out of there by 10. But we'll practice. Us and the 21 team practice together, and we'll practice. Go in, warm up, and we'll get a practice. Probably start about like 8:05. Run 6 to 8 stops, maybe at the most, and go work out after that on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wednesday we usually take off, go to the PT, get worked on, and that's it. Then we go to the racetrack on Sunday, and I have a business, a powder coating business that I run. I got 3 guys at full time now. So that takes up a lot of my free time outside of there. But those guys, man, you hire the right guys, and they pretty much run the shop, and I don't have to go there too much. And we got 2 kids. It's a handful. I got a 4-year-old and an almost 2-year-old boy. Who, I mean, at Allentown, nobody had more fun than Harper. But when it comes to all that stuff, like when the playoffs come around and all that, like I have a lot going on, but like I shut it all off. And when we're in the playoffs and it's time to go, it's like tire changer mode, and it's physical therapy once a week. It's strict workouts and making sure that if I have a rough race on Sunday, I might be in there on Monday, or definitely on the phone with my coach watching film. We kind of can access film and everything from our phones now, so I watch a lot of that on Monday and consume a lot of the numbers and figure out what other teams are doing on Mondays. Even though I'm not physically getting like on the clock or in the shop, it never really ends. So that's one reason why I don't race a lot either, because can't. There's just so much time that you don't have much time to break away. Saturdays are like Fridays are kind of the day to finish up the shop, but then Saturday before the race, like when I'm not doing Xfinity, it's like a hydration, hang out, watch the Xfinity race. Don't do much day because Sundays are pretty strenuous, man. The pit stops are like the easiest part, right? It's setting up the box, it's trying to figure out when to eat, it's walking around and moving tires and all that. So it's a lot, but it's a really cool job. It's taken a long time to get here. I think like a lot of people, a lot of young kids that come up like want to be a cool guy tire changer, but they don't want to put in like the 15 years of work to get there. They just want to wear like cool sunglasses and post on Instagram. And it's not always that sexy, but it's most of the time just riding around in a minivan with my 4, teammates and making fun of each other, just like, you guys do short track racing. I'm sure you guys do it when you drive back and forth to the racetrack. That's probably where most of the memories are, even on the cup side. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward now. But when I used to work in the shop, I mean, the guys that work in the shop, it's a grind to work in the shop down here. There's a lot of good guys though. I think sometimes up there it gets conveyed that like cup guys are idiots, I think sometimes, but man, there's some pretty sharp guys in this sport. Some really cool people too.
I think that that's pretty cool. But the one question I have too, though, is so we have this new kind of wave with the cup cars and the single lug nut. And you've touched on that, and I know that for a long time, pit crews have kind of been somewhat universal between teams, especially if it's like, say, Penske. You'll have them work on the Xfinity cars on Saturdays and then jump over to the cup car for Saturday. Is any of that going to go away? Or are we going to have more like specialty cup guys because it's going to be its own thing? Because the lower tiers are still going to have the 5 lug nuts. Is that going to screw things up at all?
I think a lot of it's going to go away. Like I'm not. I don't know what the plans are for Penske's Xfinity team, but like even if they do 2 races or something, I'm not, or whatever it is, but like I don't plan on changing Xfinity tires at all this year. Uh, I know like Gibbs has hired a lot of like older pit crew guys to just do Xfinity. They're Cup guys. None of their Cup guys are doing it, and I don't know like what everybody else's plans are, but there's not going to be as much crossover, which is good because when I was younger trying to get in the sport, it was hard because there was always Cup guys doing Xfinity. So trying to find a spot to break in, like everybody was guarding that because an extra 40, 50 grand a year to do Xfinity, people are like, hell, they're not going to give that up. So I think it's a great spot to get some younger kids some reps, and I've been really lucky with Xfinity. Won like five owners championships, drivers championship in that, and like 30, 40 races. So also, with having two kids, I'm over going on Saturdays. If I can just fly out Sunday morning, it's pretty nice. But yeah, I think that a lot of the Cup guys are just going to be Cup guys now and not doing both.
That trophy end up in one piece after Saturday night.
Yeah, that one's the one from 2018. I didn't fly back with the one from this year. It was pretty loose though. We had to tighten it up the next day. It was fun. I mean that's like what it's all about. I feel like the obviously with the blizzard the attendance was down a little bit, but man, the quality of people that were there, and there was no drama. Like always there's fights there, and there was no drama. Everybody was just having a good time. Hell, Max McLaughlin had me drinking out of that thing, and Steve Post had his shirt off, and we were having a hell of a time down there. And it was a little bit easier to have conversations. The band was good. That made a big difference. And yeah, it was easier. That's the biggest thing for me. Like winning is fun, but like that indoor racing is so cool because you race against people that you only hear about. Like when am I going to get to race against Michael Christopher unless I go race Stafford, or Timmy Buckwalter unless I go race Big Diamond or the Chili Bowl, and Briggs Danner, he's kicking everybody's ass, and USAC. The list goes on, right? Andy and Cecily and all these guys. It used to be even bigger than that, and I think we're going to start getting back to that now that people are building cars that are better than the Lafflers. I think the Lafflers, if you didn't have a Laffler there for a little bit, you weren't doing real good, and now it's kind of evening out with the 10-inch tire cars and all that. And Mark's not building cars anymore, so I I got a text message that Chris Bell wants to do it um, next year. So they asked me to find him a ride, which I'm like, how the hell am I going to find? Well, can you build another car? I'm like, hell no, I'm not building another car. I'm over building my own. But but yeah, it's a cool series, and I think COVID helped it. Allentown was really cool, and Atlantic City was gonna. They had monster pre-sale numbers. Just when you get 18 inches of snow, I grew up on the beach in New Jersey, and when it blows in off the water like that, man, we're not from Maine like you guys. People are gonna stay home and just watch it. And there's a lot of money to be made plowing in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and stuff. So yeah, the attendance was down, but the racing was good, and now having a pay-per-view is a big deal too. So I like what the Salmons family's doing and just trying to grow it. That's why I work on my car and try to make it so nice, because high tide raises all ships, and I'm trying to be that guy to kind of raise everybody else's game too.
You definitely had the whole package. You had the fresh ass gloves, the fresh ass helmet, a brand new K1 fire suit. Like you walk by at one point, I'm like, fuck yeah, I just ordered one of those suits too. Like you had the whole deal. So like you mentioned earlier when Matt said you were throwing a fit about not winning best of show, we're like, he fucking deserved it, man. He had it all.
When I built that car, man, I got everything anodized and powder coated like the same color. And I was like, if I don't win best of show, I'm painting this fucking thing pink and purple and putting yellow polka dots on it because I'm over it. And I kind of did give that guy a bunch of hell that picked it. I didn't know it was him and then once I realized it was him, I kind of was like, what do I got to do? Do you not like me? What did I do wrong? Like,
I've been helping Matt for 3 years since he started driving for Roger Mahan, and it's the same body panels. It's still got rubber marks on the Nerf bars. Like,
and that guy likes that. The car's won twice, I think.
Yeah, he said he won it 2 years ago too. I didn't even know that.
So yeah, good. I mean, I like Matt. Good for them. I don't, man. I really like those cars that Briggs won Turkey Derby in.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite cars. That's what kind of probably one of my favorite looking TQs. So I'm bummed he doesn't run that indoors. And
we brought it in 2015 or 2016. The years all blend together. I've been going every year since 2010, so I don't even know what fucking year's what. But yeah, it's long. It's doesn't quite go. But yeah, it's hard to compete with those Laffer cars, like you said, and then now the 10-inch cars. I want to build my own, but man, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work and a lot of money. I think a tire rule might help us where you run one set of tires a night or something. But yeah, man, I don't know. Driving for somebody's probably pretty nice, and I kind of wanted to do that, but I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. I have such a good group of friends that come and kind of have our own deal going, so it works out for 2 or 3 races a year.
Going back a little bit, we might be from Maine, but that walk to Hooters was brutal in the snow.
Oh my God,
I
the
was-
wind.
Yeah. I was told that they plowed the boardwalk, and they might have a little bit, but the wind definitely blew all the snow right back onto it because I was soaked and frozen, and it was terrible.
Did you guys stay at the Tropicana?
No, we were at Bally's, but
At Bally's? We
Priest
walked down the
and all of
Hooters.
them were all over down that way. So when we went out to lunch, that walk there was frigid, and I was glad that we were able to sit there. Unfortunately, I couldn't sit at the roulette table for as long as those guys, but I was at least just there to stand up in the warmth and dry out a little bit.
Priest got the big deep cup driver pockets now. He should fork some over to you.
Hey, so he's not even. Well, I will say that I might not have paid for lunch, but I will say that the title of this week's show has already been decided before even we had you or Freddie on the show, because we were for sure sitting there getting ready to order shots. I asked for. We said let's get Jaeger bombs. Well, so we asked a nice lady if she would get us Jaeger bombs. She goes and Outback checks, says she has no Jaeger. So then our buddy Brandon goes, well, let's get some green tea shots then. We go around the table, all 6 of us. We're like, yeah, we'll do green tea shots. Well, we get to Ryan, and Ryan's like, no, I'm not doing a green tea shot. And so the lady goes, so green tea shots all around? And Brandon just leans over and goes, no, checkbook said no.
Checkbook. Yeah. That son of a bitch took my open trailer from the powder coat shop the other day and blew the rear fender off it. Never said nothing. I got to call him on that. Yeah. My guys are like, I think Priest might have hit something with this, but I'm like, it's less like beat up open trailer. But yeah, I like busting his chops, man. He's been a breath of fresh air to have down here too. He's a real racer, and he would call me and kind of ask me about the politics of the sport, because it's kind of trial by fire, especially when you get in the Cup Series, man. And I think he dealt with a lot of egos on that team that he was on, and it held them back a little bit. But I'm excited. You can't have a much better guy than Harvick to have on your side. That guy's pretty sharp, and I'm excited for where Priest's career is going to go from here.
I will say that until about Monday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, whenever it was, I had no idea that I was in that picture with you and Steve. If I photobombed that, I'm sorry.
No, it was good. That was good. He was on my flight.
I think that was the first time I'd ever tried operating a neck, because I think I was like I was leaning forward.
That was good. I was trying to find that hat. I think it's still in the trophy in New Jersey. I wanted to wear it tonight, but I think it's still in the trophy up there. It's probably got mold on it now because that trophy's probably pretty dirty inside. There was all sorts of drinks in there. That's definitely a super spreader party.
Yeah. That's why I asked the trophy still made it home in one piece, because as I was scrolling through with social media, Snapchat stories, Instagram, all that stuff, it was just video after video of that trophy and someone drinking it, or pictures, one of the two. So
it was funny. It was like the Stanley Cup, and then my uncle went home and was driving around. Everybody we need, he's sending me pictures of it. I'm like, man, you might want to wipe that thing down before you let kids hold it. But yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that, like, the first time I went Atlantic City, I spun Timmy Buckwalter out, not on purpose. He just spun off my bumper, and I never really got to celebrate. And you work so hard for something, and kind of a dream race that you want to win. So I was taking advantage of it that night. And like my wife and I, man, I'm 34, 2 kids, mortgage. I don't stay up till 5 a.m. drinking anymore. We were hurting yesterday. I think I fell asleep at like 7 o'clock yesterday. I woke up, watched the end of that football game, and fell back asleep. But yeah, that was a hell of a night. One I'll remember forever.
Well, I'm bummed I missed it. I was telling Freddie earlier that I had pretty bad FOMO all weekend. I had to work, but looks like you boys had quite the time, and happy to see you win. If I had made it, I would have been my 4th year, and I would have only seen you and Andy Jankowiak win it so far. So
you and so Freddie used to come and hang out with us, but now he's like a cool guy, like Chili Bowl guy. So he don't come hang out with us anymore. He's hanging out with Chad Boat and them. But yeah, I've got to bust his balls about getting back out there with us. And yeah, there's a guy, he likes to go and wears NOS shirt or whatever the hell he wears at the Chili Bowl. Act cool.
he had signing autographs on the midway.
Yeah, he's a big wig. That's Dale Jr.'s boy.
Yeah, he said he was damn near on the plane to head to Atlantic City, but then he found out it was going to snow, so he turned around or whatever.
Yeah, as always, I'll tell you what, racing's always more fun with Freddie. We have a good time with him at Turkey Derby, and it's always good to get his take. He's pretty practical, and he thinks about stuff, pretty good. But man, them guys say some shit on that podcast that I don't have the balls to say. That's for damn sure. I told him that too, but there's a lot of value in those guys being that candid. And Yeah, there's nothing better. There's no better way than to. I think we all go to the racetrack forever. Like a perfect story is like Teddy Christopher, right? I never liked Teddy Christopher. I grew up working for John Blewett. You just hated Teddy Christopher. That was just part of it. He was a hack. And the first time I raced Trenton, I went to go past Teddy and he stuffed me in the tires. Caution came out and I bounced his head off the steering wheel under caution. And after that, I had a lane. We raced side by side. I passed him for second on a restart, and then he carved me up, passed me back, and then we had a late race restart, and I passed him again. Andy won. I finished second. He finished third, and then in victory lane, he says, "Ah, kid, I carved your freaking eyes out." I said, "Yeah, you did. Hey, where'd you end up?" "I fucking third." "What do you mean?" I said, "Oh, I finished second, dude. It's cool. I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you." "Oh, fuck you, hey," like. And then ever since then, like we had a really good friendship. Corey, the first car that Teddy Christopher ever bought to race was a Randy LaJoy car. He bought it from Randy, and so him and Corey were friends. He always ran uh, LaJoy seats. So Corey, we were all at. It was the year before Teddy died, and we were all at Atlantic City drinking the same place we are now. And there was a band playing, and Corey got Teddy pretty drunk, like falling over on the dance floor drunk on Friday night, and he's feeding him shots, and he comes over and he goes, I don't think we have to worry about Teddy tomorrow. It was the year. It was actually, I don't know if we won or finished second, but Teddy the next morning, there's a picture of me, Teddy, Corey, and Danny LaFerrier, who my main guy works on our stuff. And he's like all drunk and he's like, I feel like shit. Hey, oh my God. So I go out like middle of practice, go P1, and there's one round of practice Saturday morning. And, like Atlantic City, everybody's kind of got their measure. It's a measuring contest, right? To see who goes fast in practice. Well, Teddy goes out in the last group. And like for 3 laps, he hit everything inside tire, fence, other guys all over the place. And he puts down one lap and it knocks us off the top of the board. And he comes over and he's like, "Oh, man, I'll go drink some more and go faster, hey." And it was just so much fun, like just getting to know him. And the moral of the story is I was so wrong about him because I didn't know him other than in the Black 13. I didn't know him one bit. And podcasts, we talked about that today on Stacking Pennies. Like podcasts have opened up a way for you to understand the man behind the helmet and connect with him. Like Corey opened up about why it's called Stacking Pennies on the one podcast he did there, I Am Athlete, and it really got people on a deeper level to understand who he is, and he's really built a pretty good name for himself just through the media stuff and being able to engage with that. And all of us, every time you kind of log in here and talk, give people different perspectives and stuff to listen to, so that the I don't know, the value of podcasts is enormous.
I for sure didn't like Corey LaJoy until I started listening to Stacking Pennies and learned about him. And like I said, now I appreciate him. He's a grinder. He works for it. I'm a fabricator too, so it's relatable. I love it.
Brad's for sure the reason for the name of one of the shows from earlier on.
Yeah, about two or 3 years ago, I left a review on his podcast. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I think I said something like in it.
Bottom of the barrel.
It said bottom of the barrel, and then he went on about how it should be called bottom of the barrel. And then the next week they had Alex Bowman read it, and they both just were like going on and on about, because I think that the show that I listened to,
That was Sunday Money. That was with Daryl Mott, right?
he was bashing like Blaney's podcast and like Junior's podcast and like Freddie and all that. Like he was bashing all of them, and I was just like, dude, like this is the first show I'd ever listened to of him, and I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? Like I was like,
he's Randy. Yeah, he's Randy's kid. Sometimes, Randy's pretty blunt, and Corey gets there too.
And going off of like not liking people, and then you see a different side of them. There's a fella up in this picture right here named Steven Nassy, who we for sure talk shit about a lot, and then we could not have been better friends with him within 10-15 minutes, and now that's all of our friends up there in the bed of a truck riding around with beers in our hands. Not the driver, but
yeah, I don't know him. I don't know Steven Nassy, but I think he's a clown. So maybe if I met him, I wouldn't. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But Corey, like I think what we do now is a little bit different than what he did with Daryl Mott. We try to do like not bashing Daryl, we just try to do like more of a kind of informative. The real whole reason I do that is like you just want relevant people telling you what the hell's going on, right? You need with us going to one lug nut or going to a new car. It's real easy, as racers. what's the first thing racers do, man? They just like, that's stupid, you know, or they're ruining the sport again. Oh, it's dead, right? So if something happens, like what I've learned more and more is like when stuff happens, what you see on TV or there, it's just a small part of like when you're like, why the hell would they do that? There's usually a list of reasons why. You know, it just doesn't happen by accident. And to be able to get on there and explain, like, we just felt like going to this next gen car and especially from the pit crew side, there's a great opportunity to explain why, what happened, and what's going on in a relevant way, and really get to give kind of an insider's look at what the sport's like. But yeah, it's definitely different. Give us another shot for sure.
Uh,
Hopefully, we're just middle of the barrel now.
that'll be the name of the next show, I guess. But no, I'll definitely give you guys another show. I didn't even know you were on there until Bobby mentioned something about it before we started this call. But so we have a Patreon, and we allow some people that support us to ask some questions. A lot of them are ones that we can't read, but luckily today all of them are readable. So let's see. Scott Fowler asked the coolest moment that you've been a part of in racing, and what's your favorite muscle/street car?
I think the coolest moment in racing, there's a couple. I'd say the 2011 Tony Stewart Championship um, was really big. This weekend was really cool because we lost my cousin recently, so to be able to have my family there. But with Jimmy Blue at one time, it just kind of happened. We had his mom's funeral on a Wednesday morning. And that Wednesday night, there was a big race at Bridgeport. Friends of Mike, 50-lap race at Bridgeport. It was in Bridgeport was a big track, and he was racing the big block modified then. So he buried his mom and went to Bridgeport. Started off pretty bad. He was, you know, he half-assed wrecked in his heat race, and then came back for a second. I'm like, what happened? He's like, I pulled all my tear-offs off at one shot, and I couldn't see where I was going. And that night, he went out and he beat Stuart Friesen and Billy Pouch and all those guys and won that race. And that was just a really special day to be part of, and that was big. You know, I've done a lot of cool stuff down here. Got to be part of, you know, a lot of race wins and a lot of cool stuff. But that stuff when you go racing with your friends and family, man, there's not much better.
Rich Keeter asked, favorite sober turkey derby memory.
Oh man, there's a lot. I'm not like a crazy drinker. I've never been good at it. But winning that 100 lapper this year was really cool. And when John Blewett won in the Double O Brady car was really cool. Spotting, you know, working for those guys. But man, there's just so many. The times I look forward to are really out there at the bonfires though. That's where most of the memories are made.
I didn't even get to check out the bonfires last year, but that's kind of our that's where we end up anyways. So we'll have to do that next year, I guess. Matt Scene said, "Did Flores choose 'Forgot About Dre' as his walkout song in Allentown, or have nothing to do with that?"
That was badass.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be Still Dre is that one that we've been hammering. Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre has been when I've been on pretty hard. I think you can there's only so many people that come out to like Rage Against the Machine and Nickelback. You got to change it up and put some Dr. Dre there for sure.
And Cameron Jackson, I'll just do him a solid and just say your favorite racetrack. Let's go on NASCAR and short track.
NASCAR, I don't know, man. I just love going to Indianapolis. I think it's so cool. Like, I just got a brick cleaned up. I went down there and dug bricks out, and I went early this year and went to IRP and went to the Indy Speedrome. Man, that's just such a cool city. I love going there, and you know, the NASCAR race isn't always the best or whatever. People kind of get jaded by it, but there's no better racetrack to go to in the country in there. And short track stuff, man. I'm impartial to Wall Stadium because it's home, but you know, I like all the tracks. It's the races that I think, you know, the special events like Pensacola is pretty cool to go to. I like going there, and I always like going up to the Northeast, you know, anywhere up there. I always love going to modified racing and stuff. So I didn't get to do enough tour racing because I left when I was too young, but I'm sticking with Wall Stadium on that one.
So I think that that's a pretty decent segue into what I typically ask every single guest that we have here. You've gotten to do a lot of cool things. You've had quite the ride, it seems like, and it seems like you're not even close to the end yet, so that's cool. But I guess the biggest question is, what brings Ryan Flores to the racetrack every weekend? Why do you need to be there?
I don't think that I really know what else to do. Like if I've thought about that. Now I'm kind of getting into my mid 30s, and I don't want to be, a 45-year-old tire changer. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that's just not kind of where I want my life to go. I have dreams and aspirations of running the mod tour. I could care less about running ARCA or Xfinity, but the modified tour, I want to do that. And it was cool to go dirt racing. We went to Volusia last year, and we did a lot of stuff with dirt cars and met a lot of people. There's just a lot of racing to do everywhere in the country. But I don't know. There's one thing, but it's all I really know how to do. I don't and at the end of the day, it's the competition. When I have days, I felt like this after Friday night. I had a pretty dismal Friday night, and the only thing I wanted to do was like get back in the race car and go again. Like I just wanted I couldn't get back to the track fast enough the next day and get back in the car and go out for practice and start working on it. And it's the same way with tire changing. If I have a bad day, I can't wait to get to practice. I can't wait to do the next one. And just the competition standpoint, and to the people, right? Like all my friends are racing, and I've gotten to do so much racing, whether it's um, I think about the people that I've met and the people that I've worked with that have become my friends, like just everybody in the Northeast, obviously. And you look at guys like Cliff Daniels, who is crew chief in Kyle Larson now, right? I met Cliff when we were 14 years old racing legend cars in Virginia because we weren't old enough to race in Wall Stadium yet. And we became friends then, and we played on a kickball team down here together. He introduced my wife, and it's all stuff that kind of stems from just racing short track stuff and just being around. And we ran the Field Filler Fairgrounds behind the Joyous Seating, and the amount of people that I met there that still recognize me. I went to Volusia, and Ryan, Ryan is his name Ryan McKinney. He runs those. He's pretty big name in the Midwest racing those IMCA modifieds or UMP modifieds. And he's like, "Hey man, I remember you from the Field for the Fairgrounds. That was so awesome when you guys used to do that." So yeah, we all pay attention to each other, and we're all, I'm old enough now and confident enough now in myself to where like my ego doesn't like want me to act like I'm too cool to say hi or try to be better than anybody else. I just like meeting people and talking about racing and trying to you can learn as much from going street stock racing as you can from going cup racing everywhere in between. So that's why I just want to go do as much as I can, and if my kids want to race, that'd be cool too.
So are there go-karts on the horizon?
I don't know. Like there's a lot there was like nothing to do here years ago, but here in the last 5-10 years with what they've done at Millbridge and NCQMA, I don't know about quarter midget racing or not. It seems like sometimes, like when I've gone, I don't want to bash it, but it seems like some of these series are like more about the parents than the kids. But yeah, it's just and then you look at like a lot of my people I work with, their kids race at like GoPro Motorplex, and there's a whole different discipline there. You look like what Keelan Harvick's doing. Um, there's definitely a lot of avenues, especially with the powder coat shop now. I kind of add a service that people need to racers. Racers always want a deal, so I'm owed a lot of favors. So if they want to race, we'll do it. It's just hard because like I'm so competitive that it'd be hard to like go there and like just love them no matter what happened. Like it'd be a whole new switch to turn on and not be like, what the F are we doing here? Like I freaked out on Friday night because I got back to the truck this week and my wife was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Oh my God, I'm sorry, it didn't go great." And I'm like, "Would you quit babying me right now? Like you're giving me excuses why it's okay to lose. Like, hey, we had a bad fucking night. Let's get over it and let's go to tomorrow. Like, hey, it's over. It's not an excuse to lose tomorrow. We had a bad night." And yeah, to be able to turn that off with your kids is gonna be tough. I'll have to start working on it now, so we don't get divorced over a go-kart race.
Well, I think at the end of this, we certainly know way more about you than we did at the beginning of it. It's been very eye-opening in a lot of ways. It's been really cool to talk to you. I wish I got to meet you this past weekend, but we'll have to catch up at the next one. And looks like you boys had a good time. So
if it makes you feel any better, I don't remember about half of the interactions that we had that night. So
it was good.
Like you might not either.
It was good. No, I was good. I was ready to go. I was ready to go the next day. I was up at 8:30 driving my dad to the old racetrack to get his stuff. So
Well,
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate what you guys do.
well, we appreciate you too, and thank you for giving us your time. And like I said, I think a lot more people know a lot more about Ryan Flores than they did at the beginning of this. So we appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks.
We look forward to seeing you in some tour races up here in the near future.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Get the braced up bumper ready.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see you in a few weeks on at Speed Weeks.
Race car. Here we go, race car.